gentlemen, our very own Jishin Taiko.
Taiko, thank you all for having us. Such an honor to perform for you. We worked really hard last night. Sorry about that. As you can see, Taiko's very rigorous.
Oh yeah.
I'm sweating, I apologize. So our next song is called Matsuri, which means festival in Japanese. And as you can see, they're setting it up as of right now. And so this song is very high energy and requires a lot of people to be very energetic. So you see all of us, we're doing shouts, and you hear some of our members, Kia. So Wes, what is a Kia?
Set!
Cool, yeah. So can I have everyone say, set! One more time, set!
Set!
Oh, you can be louder than that.
Set! Set!
All right, so let's hear that during our performance. So again, this is Matsuri. Thank you again.
Julian, woo!
Go, Julian!
So hi, I'm Julian. Hi. So that song you guys heard is meant to be, and as Pat already said, we do something called Ki. Ki is a way to empower our group to do their best. So unlike other shows, we're supposed to be extremely quiet. We do want you guys to scream. We do want you guys to cheer. Please do it. So we're going to teach you one other Ki right now. So, Seth, what's another Ki that we can do?
Yes, sir, sir!
Okay, can everybody repeat that? Yes, sir, sir!
Yes,
Let's try that one more time. 1, 2, 3. Not bad. Like it. So this next song we're going to do is a little bit different than what we've done so far. It's more of a dance rather than only drums. But I hope you guys enjoy it. It's called Scissor Matches. Thank you guys.
All right.
Founded in 1995. We are the third interclassic type group here in America. We were named Chishin because of meaning earthquake. However, it means it has a double meaning. One is earthquake, and two is what we truly believe, which is self-confidence. Now, when you come into Chishin, you don't have to know anything about music, anything about drumming, anything at all about hitting or doing anything with your hands whatsoever. We want you to come in with no experience or as much experience as you can and learn with us. As a community group, the whole thing about us is we try learning with each other. We never admit that we are masters at anything. We are always forever students and never anything about mastery or anything about competition. We're always fun-loving and try our best to make sure all of us can play with you guys. So once again, you're going to see some competition techniques.
So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Wow, I feel like drumming. But I'm so excited about the program today. We have a distinguished lecture as we do every year, as well as the student awards, and many proud parents tonight who are able to come. So thank you for coming out to witness this event. And I'm just very excited. I'm going to hand it over back to our master of ceremony here, Professor Alan Aquino. Did I introduce myself? I'm Professor Gina Masakesme. I'm the chair of Asian American Studies. So anyway, welcome everyone, and I hope you can all find seats. And the few in middle here, some up here, one up here, two middle here. So please come and sit down. It's going to be a long time. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to the master. Okay, I'll introduce the dean myself. So we are very happy to have our dean of the College of Humanities, let's say, to come and say a few words.
Welcome you all here this evening. The College of Humanities is the academic home for the Asian American Studies Department, and we're proud to have them as a member of our college. One of the things we take very seriously in the college is the work we do to serve the region, and we believe that departments like Asian American Studies help the university I'm having trouble talking tonight, fulfill its mission of serving the region of the San Fernando Valley and the greater Los Angeles area. Asian American Studies is an important player in the fulfilling of that mission. And it does that because, in part, not only its terrific students, but its wonderful faculty. And I wonder if all the faculty would just wave your hands so that people can see who you are. We have terrific faculty in Asian American to the communities which its students represent. And as far as I'm concerned, there is no one more committed to serving the students in the community than Professor Glenn Amatsu. When I think about Glenn, I can't imagine Asian American Studies without him. Glenn, you've been here as long as I can remember, and what that says is that we're both getting old. Glenn has been a wonderful member of the Asian American Studies community and the Seaside community itself, and so I'm very happy to be here with you all tonight to hear what are always words of wisdom from Professor Amatsu, and to celebrate with you the accomplishments of your students. Thank you very much.
Okay, before I get to the stage and set up, just out of curiosity, we have a number of our Asian American Studies students here, class of 2013 as well as the forthcoming class of 2014. How many of y'all know Presley? I'd like to call our friend and colleague Presley to take the center stage here, if you will. Yeah. He's going to get our blood up to keep us focused on what we're going to do today. So all eyes on this man, please. He will be returning to the stage later to receive an award, which we'll get to. But for now, Presley, everybody.
So we have this thing in the movement that we do, and it's called a unity clap. So when people needed to find each other, they would clap, right? And who knows the unity clap? So we're going to do a version of that, and we're going to say a little thing in Tagalog. Isang bagsak. Sorry, I'm not sure. So can you all like join me? And we're going to yell and make noise. to find themselves and find their place. Okay? All right.
Now, for those of you wondering about what we just did, it wasn't just a casual exercise to get your blood up and to keep you awake for the 4th of May festivities, because today is a celebration, all right? Well, frankly, if you have no clue what we just did, ask somebody. A lot of the folks here can teach you something about our history and about this movement that we're a part of. We're not just a department, we're not just a series of classes, and we're not just, these faculty members who occasionally put together these fun, fantastic events. No, we're all part of the movement. And on that note, I should begin by saying that, scholars beget scholars. Mentors beget mentors. That's just how it is. Scholars beget scholars, mentors beget mentors. What I mean is, in this community of learning and ideas that we got going on here, that's been going on strong for decades, we are constantly influencing and changing each other all the time. And during the past 4.5 decades of history, specifically the history of ethnic studies itself, there have been very few scholars and mentors as influential as our distinguished guest lecturer tonight, Professor Glenn Amatsu. Now, I think that that's an appropriate honorific to call him, a distinguished guest lecturer, but he's really not a guest. If a home is built by a community, well, this has been his house for quite some time because he helped build it, all right? So he's more than just a guest lecturer. And there's nothing part-time about his love, all right? Now, for those of you who are going to be experiencing Professor Amatsu for the first time tonight, which is a lot of you, boy, are you in for an experience. All I can tell you is you should listen to his ideas, and I can guarantee you, for those of you who are going to experience Professor Amatsu tonight, you will be changed at the end of this evening. Take my word for it. Now, for those of you who do know him, and a lot of you do, how many people know, what's his name, Glenn? Anybody know Glenn? Oh, come on, make some noise. Yeah, he's a nice guy. Well, most of you do. And a number of our students actually recently returned from the Association for Asian American Studies conference, which was a huge event in the Bay Area. And you ask anybody in ethnic studies, not just Asian American studies, they know who Glenn Amatsu is. Even if they don't know him personally, they know of him, and certainly they've been influenced by him. Now, for those of you who do know him, not just those of you who timidly raise your hands, if I were to ask you, to describe Professor Amatsu in single words, I could imagine that a lot of you are going to come up with words like scholar or activist. A lot of you, including myself, would probably say mentor. I know for a fact that many of us in the community would say father. And in addition to titles and titles like that, some people might use singular adjectives like kind and compassionate and loving. Now, everyone in ethnic studies, not just Asian American studies, has been influenced by Professor Amatsu and the virtues that he helped pass on to us. And one of the virtues that comes to mind is the virtue of liberation. Now, about 20 years ago, Professor Amatsu published one of his signature scholarly works, The Four Prisons and the Movements of Liberation. And for a lot of us in ethnic studies at the time, my generation, that is to say, long before we became grad students and got hip to critical pedagogy and Paulo Freire and so forth, we learned about the spirit of critical pedagogy from Professor Amatsu. And in citing from Dr. Ali Shariati, we are all imprisoned by history, geography, class, and the self. And when Professor Amatsu brings the virtue of liberation into our classrooms, he doesn't just lecture about it, he makes it hands-on and real. And he mentors for us. Well, that's exactly what he does. He teaches us and shows us the virtue of mentorship. Now, in ethnic studies back in the day, we used to cite the old Maoist adage of serving the people. But Professor Amatsu takes it to another level by encouraging us the value of mentorship. And mentorship is such an important virtue that he incorporates in classes that we indeed incorporate in all of our Asian American Studies classes. And I can't help think of the analogy when I think of Professor Amatsu's virtue of mentorship You know, the only time you should look down at somebody is when you're helping them up. The only time you should look down at somebody is when you're lifting them up to the proper place where they should be, when you're raising one another, because ultimately we are one community, and our separateness is an illusion. And, you know, I got a quote, I don't know if he's here, one of our recent alumni, Kevin Guzman. How many of you know Kevin? Okay, two. Okay, great. One of our mentees, one of our recent graduates, Kevin, who's going to be attending grad school with some of our graduates this year, he raised this notion of microaffections when he visited me during office hours. Now, in Asian American Studies, we talk about things like microaggressions, you know, like mundane daily instances of gender bias and sexism and racism and so forth. But, you know, Kevin brought up this idea of microaffections where we have these little moments of mentorship and kindness that keep us going. And he certainly learned that virtue as a peer mentor with Professor Amatsu. And another virtue that Professor Amatsu has passed on to us, among so many, this is not a complete list, okay, is the value of subversiveness. You know, you always got to be subversive. Now, when we say that, we don't mean being a fashionable rebel, you know, just chanting and protesting from the outside. There's nothing wrong with protests. They could be, you know, vastly important things, but it's not enough. When you subvert something, you change it from the inside. You don't just protest as an outsider. You become part of a system in order to transform it on the inside. And for generations, the word revolution has been used so pervasively, almost to the point that it becomes a cliche. We lose the meaning of it. But the true meaning of any revolution is transformation. It's change. It's not about separateness. It's about creating the oneness where all of us have a proper place, where all of us are equal. Professor Amatsu definitely embodies that virtue and passes it on to us. Now, we could spend an entire evening of everybody sharing their stories about how Professor Amatsu changed their lives. Don't worry, I'm not going to get into mine because I'll be here till next week. When I announced today's event, indeed when my colleagues, you know, announced tonight's event, we also announced a forthcoming event happening next Tuesday in which the Asian American Studies Activity Center, aka the Asian House, will be renamed the Glenn Omatsu House. How cool is that? And, you know, if a house is a home and a home is defined by the people who build it and inhabit it, then truly it is Glenn's house as much as it belongs to all of us. And, you know, indeed, it's not the Glenn Omatsu wing, it's not the Glenn Omatsu room, it's not the Glenn Omatsu table, it's going to be the Glenn Omatsu house. So, quick plug, if anybody's free next Tuesday around 2 p.m., you can join us. And I don't know if we have any flyers here, but for those of you in my classes, of course, we provided you all the information. The celebration doesn't just end tonight. It's a door that opens and continues into a celebration happening next week. And on that note, we announced these events by way of social media to a lot of our colleagues on campus. If you will, I wanted to share some comments from some of our dear friends and colleagues outside of campus who have been influenced by Professor Amatsu. When a variety of our community colleagues got word of today's event, as well as the Glenn Omatsu House dedication on Tuesday, they were kind enough to forward to me some of their comments, which I wanted to share with you. Mr. Tony Asumi. Now, for those of you who are Asian American Studies majors, you should know who Tony is. He's our OG. Tony Asumi is like our first graduate, our first mentee of Asian American Studies to go into graduate school, and who's now an educator and artist and community organizer. When Tony got the word of today's event as well as the Glenn Omatsu House dedication next week, Tony wrote, "The Glenn Omatsu House at CSUN has a nice ring to it." And then he put a shout out to all his friends on his Facebook account. "Come help celebrate, everyone!" Multiple exclamation points. From our community colleague Felipe Lamu over at UCLA, part of our longtime community there, Felipe chimed in with, "This is fantastic news. Glenn definitely earned that honor." One of our community colleagues, for those of you from the Bay, or for those of you into the underground hip-hop scene, Mr. Jack De Jesus, aka Kiwi, chimed in with, "The Glenn Omatsu House, aka the International House of Yoga." Mr. Scott Kurashige, Professor Scott Kurashige of the University of Michigan, a longtime ally of our department, chimed in with, "This is a phenomenal and well-deserved honor for CSUN to dedicate the Glenn Omatsu House. And my personal mentor during my time here at CSUN, Professor Emily Lawson, not my only mentor, of course." I'm going to read for you verbatim what she wrote, because she posted this on the internet, so it's an internet speak. Professor Lassa wrote, OMG, this is the best news in all caps and 3 exclamation points. Congratulations, Glenn Amatsu, 3 exclamation points. And right on, CSUN, 2 exclamation points. I so wish I could be there. This is so awesome. Please post pictures. Emily, wherever you are, I'll post later tonight. Oh, and she signs off with XOXO emoticon smiley. Okay, almost done. A couple of other comments. I have here a comment from, many of you in Asian American Studies know this man, one of our elder statesmen, Professor Don Nakanishi, former director of the Asian American Studies Center at UCLA. He wrote, "This is a very well-deserved tribute. Glenn Amatsu has had an extraordinary impact on students, faculty, and staff at CSUN, UCLA, UCSC, PCC, and other colleges, including Yale University, where he helped co-found the Yale Asian American Studies Student Association in 1969, a group which survives and thrives to this day, 45 years later. Congratulations, Glenn." And the last comment I wanted to share by way of the internet comes from another community colleague of ours, Mr. Bong Vergara, who writes, warm congratulations, Glenn. After a lifetime of tireless dedication, empowering the youth, and serving as a surrogate father for so many aspiring change makers, this recognition is thoroughly well-deserved. I am where I am in consciousness and in the work I do because of the selfless attention and mentorship you gave me when I was hungry to change my life and learn where I fit in the world. That act of love I will never forget, and I am doing my best to pay it forward. So to bring things full circle, as I call up our distinguished guest lecturer, again, scholars beget scholars, mentors beget mentors. The round of applause that you're about to drop should be the loudest round of applause you can possibly muster, especially tonight. Please welcome Professor Glenn Amatsu.
Thank you very much. Okay, normally when I give speeches, I don't write them out, but I wanted to write my speech tonight for a simple kind of like reason. If I get up here and talk, I'm like other college professors, and we continue to talk and talk even when people don't listen. So one of the reasons why I wrote my speech out is that this way, I'm only going to speak for less than 25 minutes, and then we can actually have the better part of our program, which is actually the student awards, and I know some of the students are also going to have important words of wisdom that they're going to share. So bear with me for only about 25 minutes, and I apologize for having to read the speech, but it's kind of like necessary so I don't take too much time. Okay? So I thank leaders of the Asian American Studies Department for inviting me to speak tonight. I thank especially Department Chair Dr. Gina Masakespe for her dedication and convictions. I also thank past leaders of the department for enabling me to teach on this campus for the past 20 years. These past leaders include Dr. Kenyon Chan, Dr. Teresa Williams-Leon, Dr. Gordon Nakagawa, Dr. Enrique Dela Cruz, Dr. Juana Mora, Dr. George Uba, and Dr. Sandra Stanley. These leaders have strongly supported the department's partnership with the Educational Opportunity Program and have enabled me to teach EOP's high potential freshmen in the Bridge Long-Term Learning Community. Also, I thank those of you in the audience, both faculty and students, who have served as future leaders of the department. I thank you in advance for the courage that you will show to defend and expand Asian American Studies. Let me begin my presentation with an important disclaimer. Although I am closely associated with the Asian American Studies Department and also the Educational Opportunity Program, I want to emphasize that everything that I say tonight represents my own viewpoints and not the views of the leaders of these two programs. On many other occasions, I have spoken on behalf of these two programs, but tonight I am presenting only my own viewpoints. Tonight my presentation focuses on one simple statement. Asian American Studies and Ethnic Studies belong to the students and our communities. So I repeat that statement. Asian American Studies and Ethnic Studies belong to students in our communities. These programs do not belong to faculty, and they are not owned by the university. These programs exist because 4 decades ago, students and supporters from our communities fought to make them possible. Students protested, went on strike, and were arrested and beaten to win the right to what was then called relevant education. The student and community demand for relevant education was not limited to what was supposed to be taught within the classroom. It was also connected to demands for open admissions in universities for those previously excluded, and to also redefine the mission of higher education to serve not the rich and powerful, but the voiceless sectors of our communities. In other words, because of what Asian American studies and ethnic studies represent, they are fundamentally subversive. They embody student and community empowerment, and they also embody as vehicles for challenging and also expanding the institution's values and missions. Each semester when I begin teaching my classes, I feel great gratitude. I feel grateful because I have a chance to teach Asian American Studies classes and EOP students that 4 decades ago I fought for. I was not a student leader in these early movements, and my role in the struggle to gain relevant education was minor, but I now cherish the opportunity to be able to serve as a faculty member who owes my job to students and community supporters. As a faculty member in Asian American Studies and EOP on this campus, I have a special responsibility to defend these programs against attacks. I also have a responsibility to help students and people in our communities to envision an expanded role for Asian American Studies, which is intricately linked to ongoing struggles for social justice in our communities. To take up these responsibilities, I have to reject a narrow interpretation of what Asian American Studies is and embrace a broader vision. Let me quickly explain what I mean by a narrow vision and also a broader vision. Unlike other academic programs in the university, Asian American Studies is not defined by its subject matter. In other words, Asian American Studies is more than simply the study of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. Instead, Asian American Studies is distinguished by its methodology and its approach to knowledge. More precisely, Asian American Studies is defined by its epistemology, so I'll use the word from philosophy. Okay? Epistemology basically is a special approach for knowing about the world and changing the world, but also simultaneously changing oneself. That's the special epistemology of Asian American Studies. This special approach exists as a challenge to the mainstream university in terms of teaching and research, the roles of students and faculty, and also the relationship of the universities to communities. This means that anyone who takes a class or teaches a class in Asian American Studies has a responsibility to move beyond mainstream university practices, such as seeing knowledge only in terms of advancement of the individual. To be a student or faculty member in Asian American Studies means living within the dialectic of resisting constant pressures to conform to mainstream university practices, while upholding our special subversive mission. Today we see intensifying attacks on ethnic studies. These attacks are occurring for 2 main reasons. First, people in power strongly oppose the assertion that ethnic studies belongs to students and our communities, and they do everything possible to maintain institutional control over these programs. They respond to student demands with arguments focusing on institutional ownership of academic disciplines, faculty government, and other traditional university practices. Second, people in power realize that potentially Asian American Studies and ethnic studies are subversive forces in education that can influence other students from other departments to demand more rights. People in power consider ethnic studies to be potentially subversive, not because of what is studied and taught, but because of how and why. That's why it's always important for students to always emphasize the vision of what ethnic studies can potentially become, because this vision can help all students to transform higher education. In recent years, attention has focused on the most blatant attacks on ethnic studies, such as Cal State LA and also in Arizona. At our sister campus of Cal State LA a few years ago, one administrator suspended the Asian and Asian American Studies program. He justified his decision by citing low enrollment in classes and small numbers of majors, but never acknowledged the lack of funds and support for the programs from administrators. However, students and faculty formed a multi-ethnic student alliance and together with community supporters successfully beat back the administration's effort to eliminate Asian and Asian American Studies. In Arizona, about 3 years ago, politicians eliminated the highly successful Mexican American Studies program, which had achieved outstanding graduation rates in high schools. Politician banned books, including Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed, my seasoned colleague Rudy Acuña's Occupied America, and a powerful collection of essays called Rethinking Columbus. If you are not familiar with any of these books, please check them out and find out why some Arizona politicians are afraid of their impact on young people today. In Arizona and other places where ethnic studies has come under attack, people in power fear the sense of empowerment that these programs promote in young people. In Arizona, the attack on Mexican American studies is also connected to broader attacks on rights of immigrants and people in low-income communities. In other words, it is part of a larger political agenda, and students and community supporters in that state have mobilized around all these broader issues. Although the most blatant attacks on ethnic studies have gained the most attention, it is also important to understand other actions targeting ethnic studies in this time period. These actions include cutbacks in funding, reorganization of programs, and the creation of counter-initiatives to ethnic studies. Okay? In contrast to these blatant attacks, these actions are harder for students to understand and respond to. Nevertheless, student voices in these controversies are essential because, as I stated earlier, ethnic studies belongs to students and our communities. One controversy is actually happening on our campus and focuses on the partnership announced by top university officials with the National Autonomous University of Mexico, or UNAM for short, to promote Latin American studies. I want to share my opinions on this controversy because I think it is an important issue for students, including those in Asian American studies, to speak out on. But because I would be criticizing university officials, some of whom are in the room tonight, I want to say some clarifying remarks. I'm a lecturer on campus, and generally I do not have that much contact with top campus officials. In the few interactions I've had with them, I found these officials to be good human beings. I say this because more than 20 years ago, when I worked at UCLA, I encountered some high-ranking officials who I generally regarded as vicious people. Here at CSUN, the people that I have met who are top officials are good people, but there are also people who play a role in defending the interests of this institution. Okay? From my own experience of dealing with institutions of power, I see these institutions as never at the forefront of social change or social justice. In fact, these institutions often play a reactive role to the demands for change and justice coming from the margins of the institutions. I think this is why we often see good people in positions of power in these institutions defending unfair policies and decisions. These can include a provost defending denial of tenure to a highly qualified faculty member of color based on biased and incomplete evaluations by a chair or a dean. These can also include top university officials refusing to acknowledge that they made a mistake in not consulting in advance with an ethnic studies department for initiatives that directly affects that department and the students and communities it serves. I think that students can best understand the UNAM controversy by seeing it as not one single decision, but as probably a preview of future decisions between officials in the state university system with powerful and private entities. These will happen due to reductions in state funding for higher education. University officials will always talk about the benefits of these agreements for the institution, but it will be up to students to analyze who will actually benefit and how these partnerships will affect students and our communities. I think students can best understand the UNAM controversy by asking themselves the following set of questions. Who in Latin America will this agreement benefit? Will this partnership focus on the needs of indigenous people and poor peoples and the concerns raised by grassroots movements like the Zapatistas? Or will this partnership focus on the interests of the elite and the concerns of corporate and government leaders? How will this partnership address the neo-colonial relationship between nations and peoples of Latin America and the United States? In U.S. communities, who will benefit from this agreement and who will be harmed? How will this partnership respond to problems facing people in low-income communities that are basic issues in ethnic studies? On our campus, which faculty will be involved in this program and what perspective will they bring to it? For example, if faculty are mainly from departments outside of ethnic studies, what perspective will they bring to analyze injustices, economic exploitation, and racism? How will their perspective differ from that of faculty who teach and do research in ethnic studies? How will this agreement help low-income students on our campus? What impact would it have on the rights of our students to a relevant and affordable education? Finally, who will the UNAM partnership empower? Will it empower low-income students in Mexico, Latin America, and CSUN? Will it empower the poor in Latin America and in the local community? Or will it further empower those who already are in power? I've spent several minutes focusing on the UNAM controversy because I believe that students from ethnic studies need to speak out. The UNAM controversy affects students in several specific ways, but now what I want to do is use the last part of my presentation to relate these specific impacts to the larger responsibilities of students in this period. I focus on 7 roles and responsibilities to defend and expand ethnic studies. First, students should take the time to reflect on what I mean by the statement that Asian American studies and ethnic studies belong to students in our community. What does it mean when academic programs belong to students in our communities rather than to faculty and administrators? What does it mean that Asian American studies is not simply a study of subject matter, but a special approach to knowing and changing the world and simultaneously knowing and changing ourselves? What does it mean that students in our communities have responsibility to act subversively with the knowledge gained from these programs to not only challenge but to expand the mission and values of this university? Students should take time to individually reflect on these questions and to collectively discuss them with fellow students. Second, students should use knowledge and skills that they gain from classes in Asian American studies to serve our communities. They should share knowledge with families and people in their neighborhoods. They should remember that most people in their families and their neighborhoods would never have the chance to learn what they are learning in classes because unfortunately Asian American studies remain mainly confined today to universities. Students also need to think creatively about bringing Asian American studies into our communities through workshops and projects that are dear to those who would never be able to attend college, such as immigrant workers, prison inmates, and high school dropouts, and help to empower them with new knowledge and skills. Third, students need to represent on our campus the voices from our communities that are oftentimes never heard. Asian American studies belongs to students, but it also belongs to our communities. Our communities, however, are composed of both powerful sectors and oppressed sectors. Asian American studies does not belong to corporations, the wealthy, or the most powerful voices in our communities. Asian American studies does belong to the largely unheard sectors, such as immigrant workers, small businesses, and children. It is the responsibility of students to represent these sectors and make sure that Asian American studies responds to their needs. Fourth, students should follow the example of Professor Rudy Acuna and connect and defend the defense of ethnic studies to other issues related to the fundamental right to education for all people. This right is under attack today, mainly through restrictive admission policies in universities and rising student fees. Students need to ensure that college education remains an opportunity for the generations that come after them. On this campus in particular, students in Asian American Studies need to support the department's linkage with EOP, and especially help EOP defend its special admission slots for high potential freshmen from low-income communities. These freshmen, some of whom will be recipients of promising freshman awards later this evening, are living testaments to EOP's assertion that all young people deserve the chance to become successful in college, even if they did not do well in high school. Fifth, students should never let people in power on campus, whether they are administrators or faculty, tell them that they don't own Asian American studies and have only a limited role in deciding what happens in departments. Faculty, even those in Asian American studies, are influenced by standard institutional practices such as faculty governance, and sometimes have to be gently reminded by students that they do not own Asian American studies. Also, as faculty rise up in the university, they sometimes get sidetracked by the focus on personal advancement and need to be reminded by the students of the founding mission of ethnic studies. Okay, 6, students need to use their time in our classes, and especially their time outside of classes, to learn how to confront systems of power. Through activism on campus, students can gain a basic understanding of strategy and tactics and the power of grassroots mobilization to achieve social change. Students should learn, for example, how to draft and present demands to administrators. They should learn how to meet with people in power and create strategies and tactics to achieve what they demand. They should learn how to organize and raise awareness among fellow students. They should learn to organize marches and rallies, how to create flyers and pamphlets, and how to write for campus newspapers. When I was a student many years ago, I gained all these valuable skills. I gained them through traditional vehicles such as student government, but also, more importantly, through grassroots student groups that I helped found. When I became active in communities, I discovered that the skills that I gained as a student were essential for serving my communities. They were an essential part of my education on campus. Although I focus on the skills I gained as a student activist, I do not want today's students to believe that they need to use the same tactics my generation did. Students today need to think creatively and imaginatively to develop new tactics and draw from the experience of grassroots struggles in our communities. 4 decades ago, effective student tactics such as sit-ins, building takeovers, and campus strikes came from grassroots struggles in our communities, notably from the civil rights movement and immigrant worker campaigns for justice. When student activists adapted these tactics to college campuses, administrators did not know how to respond because these were new tactics. However, just as students have learned from the experiences of earlier generations, so have administrators. And now administrators know how to respond to these tactics. That's why it is important for students today to creatively and imaginatively develop new tactics that effectively confront systems of power. I don't know what these new tactics would be, but I can say that they would be adapted from grassroots struggles for justice now going on in our communities. That's why it is important for students to be closely connected to our communities. And 7, students need to embrace the challenge of being subversive and serving as agents of social change to expand the mission and values of this institution. To do this requires courage, patience, and tenacity. But most of all, it requires a sense of righteousness and a willingness to act according to righteousness. By righteousness, I do not mean self-righteousness. I emphasize an understanding of righteousness that comes from our indigenous cultures and is deeply grounded in principles linking equality, justice, and compassion for all people. I have listed 7 roles and responsibilities for students in this period, but I do not expect anyone here to remember these points. Okay? 7 roles and responsibilities are too many to remember. So let me end my presentation by emphasizing one final point. It is not so much a role and responsibility as it is a value to live by, a value that will help students carry out their roles and responsibilities. This value was shared with me through early interactions with Asian immigrant workers, and as I've grown older, I recognize my own responsibility to share it with new generations. This value is what I call militant humility. In the broader U.S. society, quality of being humble is regarded as being weak, and humility is not associated with movements for social change. Instead, most activists focus on militancy, and students are trained both consciously and unconsciously to see political power and social change in terms of militant struggle. In contrast, the tradition of Asian Pacific Islander activism, born from the struggles of early generations of immigrant workers, intricately linked militancy with humility. This tradition of militant humility enabled them to fiercely fight for equality and justice, while also developing patience for the challenging process involved in grassroots organizing. Elders from our communities also caution us to understand that practicing militant humility requires ideological clarity. We must be humble towards those we serve, but be militant toward those who oppress our communities. However, on college campuses, we oftentimes see students who express humble respect for faculty and administrators, even for those who do not deserve respect. In contrast, these same students ignore or abuse immigrant workers on our campus. Similarly, in our communities, we oftentimes see people give humble respect to politicians and other powerful people while ignoring the poor and the powerless. This is why our elders caution us to understand that practicing militant humility requires ideological clarity. Even when we think we understand, we must always reflect on whom we are humble towards and whom we militantly defy. In other words, practicing militant humility relates back to upholding the special mission that distinguishes Asian American Studies and Ethnic Studies from all other programs in the university. All programs on our campus value knowledge and teach students that they need to gain knowledge to understand the world. Some programs go further and encourage students to use the knowledge they gain from classes to change the world. But Asian American Studies and Ethnic Studies emphasize the mission of students to change the world while simultaneously transforming themselves. Asian American Studies and Ethnic Studies belong to our students and our communities. To defend and expand this important program, students and we as community supporters need to practice militant humility. Through militant humility, we can serve the people and at the same time remold ourselves. Okay, so thank you very much for listening.
How do you follow that? Well, we are going to segue to the second part of our celebration this evening. Please don't leave. Stick around to support our students who will be acknowledged tonight. As I said before, and as I proudly say again, scholars beget scholars, mentors beget mentors. And boy, do we have another learning opportunity or what? All right. And for those of you who've been in the ethnic studies game for a while, this was a great learning opportunity to approach that age-old question, so what do you do with a background in ethnic studies? What do you do with a background in Asian American studies? Now, as you know, you can look, that question asked in the eye and say, oh, make a better world, change people, spread joy and happiness and social justice for others, and at the same time surround yourself, surround myself with the coolest, most wonderful, inspiring people you can ask for. Not a bad choice if you choose to participate with our movement, as not just limited to ethnic studies, of course. I'd like to call to the stage now Dr. Rashida Brown Elise, who is going to be bestowing our Promising Freshman Awards to the students in our Educational Opportunities Program.
Thank you. The Asian American Studies Department and the Educational Opportunity Program have worked together for many years, assisting low-income, first-generation students from educationally disadvantaged backgrounds. EOP was established in 1969, and this program has changed the life of many students from poor communities. I myself am a former EOP student, a proud former EOP student, because EOP is a program that changed my life and also changed my family and my community. I can't stand here and share my experience, of course, without sharing my story, a few words about Professor Gonomatsu, who is a mentor in my life and has been my mentor for many years. Professor Aquino described him as an activist, mentor, an advocate, and a surrogate father for many students, and he's also served all of those roles for me. I won't say too much, but I would just like to say that I'm really honored to be a part of this ceremony. Thank you. I am honored tonight to introduce the Promising Freshman Award. This award recognizes freshmen who have demonstrated promise in their academics and community. All of these students have been identified by faculty as someone who will make contributions to ethnic studies and ethnic studies in the future. The following students have all been involved in the Educational Opportunity Program. Students, when I call your name, I'm going to ask you to join me on the stage so we can acknowledge you and give you an award. After you have been all called, please stay on the stage so that you can take a group picture. Will the following students please join me on stage? Wendy Alaman. Carlos Barahona. Sharon Carrillo. Dionysia Crutcher. Nancy Gonzalez. Trayshawn Harris. Tristan Palencia. Avery Swinson. And last but not least, Myra Zizumbo. Let's have one more round of applause for all of you.
The Asian American Studies event. You know it's going to be a whole bunch of cameras. Come on. Well, there we go. Okay, our next round of awards will be Promising Freshman Awards for our students who are part of our Asian American Studies curriculum. And to present these awards, please welcome Professor Teresa Williams.
I'm Teresa Williams-Leon, a faculty member in Asian American Studies, and I wanted to thank Professor Omatsu, who's also my mentor, and reminding those of us who are faculty to remember why we're here. Thank you. This is really exciting for me because I am presenting the Promising Freshman Awards, and we know that freshmen have many years to come, and so we see future leaders here. I am going to apologize in advance if I slaughter your names. Please feel free to correct me. As Professor Omatsu said, don't be afraid to challenge faculty or administrators, especially when they botch your names up. So, Promising Freshman Awards in Asian American Studies. The following freshmen have also demonstrated promise in their academics and community involvement, particularly in Asian American Studies. All of these students have been identified by faculty as someone who will make contributions to ethnic studies in the future. When I call your name, I'm going to ask you to join me on the stage so that you can be acknowledged for your award and so we can take a group photo together. So the Asian American Studies Promising Freshmen go to Michelle Bach, Blumenau Baez, Jamel Camilleri, David Emil Chan, Margaret Escobar Diamante, Kimberly Hideko Endo, Maxwell Gasamelo, Coleman Hackwit, Daniel Joffrey, Joyce Ji-Won Kim, Han-Ju Lee, Amabella Marana, Tiffany Lee Yuen, Brianna Reyes. Ivan Soriano. Danielle Sumi. Rexia Aquino Tabin. Evelyn Toon. Dana Lorna Tsang. Elisa Yeager. And Ida Yee. Congratulations for a promising freshman award of
Okay, presenting next will be Professor Tomohaguri, who will be bestowing our Promising Sophomore Award.
Thank you very much, Alan. Hello. The Promising Sophomore Award. This award recognizes sophomores who have demonstrated promise in the context of academics and community involvement. All of these students have taken at least 2 courses in Asian American Studies and or the Ethnic Studies programs at CSUN. We consider these students to have the potential to contribute to the future of Asian American Studies and Ethnic Studies. And on behalf of myself and my fellow colleagues in the Asian American Studies Department, most of who are here in this room, if you haven't taken courses with any of us yet, we very much look forward to the honor of helping you with your journey in Asian American Studies. I'll read the names, and then I'll ask you, as we've been doing, to come up to the stage to acknowledge, to get your award, and then to hang back like we all have been doing so that we can get a group photo with you. Mark Aquino. Mark Aquino's not here today. Rocio del Carmen Arambula. Casey Arevalo. Raymond Lee Baxal. Jane Banda. Danielle Erica Coe. Anthony Contreras. Luan Pu. Estelito Thea Fernandez. Erica Garcia. Elijah Kang. Esther Kim. Toby Olbeck. Lorenzo Lutia. Paulo Seo. And last, Nalani Mesu. And then just one more concluding round of applause.
All right, before we share and announce our next round of awards, we're gonna have to double back just a moment, I'm afraid. For our EOP folks who are here today, we got Mr. Alexander Herrera. Just really briefly, sorry for the oversight. We want to recognize this young man as part of our EOP award, as part of our promising freshman. We may be late, but we don't forget it. There you go. Of awards will be presented by Professor Clem Lai, the Community Builders Award.
Hi. The Community Builder Award recognizes students who play a crucial role in building the Asian American community on or off campus. These 3 students in particular have been integral in sharing Asian American studies with people beyond those taking our classes. And many have mentored other students who are new to the department. When I call your name, I'm going to ask you to join me on stage so that you can be acknowledged for your award and so that we can take a group photo together. The 3 awardees, 3 community builders this year are Alina Nguyen, Alina Nguyen is studying English literature and Asian American studies. She's a double major, so she's very busy. Alina is a really creative person. She is an avid comic book collector and designs clothing. She has even conducted formal research on tattoos. She recently presented her research at the Association for Asian American Studies in San Francisco on tattoos. And she is determined to share the importance of ethnic studies by using popular culture as a way to inform and make sense of Asian American experiences. Alina's goal is to go to graduate school and share Asian American perspectives with people who do not have much exposure to what that community offers to society. The second awardee was Mr. Julian Pham. Julian is a first-generation Vietnamese American who immigrated to the United States in 1993 from Switzerland. Upon graduating from San Gabriel High School in 2007, Julian enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps and has been serving his country while enrolled as a full-time student. Currently, he's a double major in biology and Asian American studies, and his goal is to obtain a PhD, MD PhD, and use his knowledge to protect Americans from bioterrorism. We know Julian has become an important member of the Asian American Studies community and has often assisted the department through event planning and mentoring fellow students. Please give a warm round of applause. And our final recipient is Mr. Julian Recio, who was drumming earlier with the Jinsen Taiko Ensemble. He can't be here right now, so his friend Patrick Coos will accept for him. So let's take just a word about Julian. He's a major in Asian American Studies and a minor in business finance. He's also president and performance director of the Jinsen Taiko Ensemble. And of course, you saw him perform earlier. It's very good. We know Julian as someone who has worked hard to show others the importance and relevance of Asian American cultural practices like Taiko. While he did not initially intend to major in Asian American studies, he has told us that what he has learned has left an impression on his life. In the future, Julian wants to pursue a master's in business administration or finance so that he can assist Asian American small businesses secure financial assistance. Right. Let's have a collective round of applause.
Okay, stage to present our Academic Achievement Award, Professor Edith Chen.
Hello.
Hi.
Also wanted to thank Professor Aquino for always doing such a great job being MC and host. He's just a master of language. So the Academic Achievement Award is given to a student in Asian American Studies who has demonstrated a strong academic performance and a critical understanding of Asian American Studies or ethnic studies. And this year, the recipient of the Academic Achievement Award goes to Julie Mack. I first met Julie 4 years ago when she took my Intro to Asian American Studies class, and she really impressed me with her enthusiasm and passion for the subject matter. And she and her group gave the best student presentation, the best group project presentation on Southeast Asian American families. I remember Julie coming into my office. At that time, she was not an Asian American Studies major yet. She was teetering between Asian American Studies and sociology, and she finally decided to double major in Asian American Studies and sociology, and I've been keeping my eye out on her ever since. She's currently a senior and a double major. She has the highest GPA in the department. And one thing I want to say about that is that Julie has virtually supported herself throughout her college career. I remember she at the same time, she's always seeking out certain kinds of ways to help her community. I remember she was early on, she was like saying, are there any internships is there a way that I can take a summer internship and that helps the Asian American community? Do you know of any? And then later on, she really impressed me by, she took the initiative to seek out a study abroad program in Korea. In addition to her strong academics, she is interested in spoken word and music as forms of activism. Currently, she's an intern at the Chinatown Community for Equitable Development, where she's helping the organization with its grassroots campaign for economic justice in Los Angeles, Chinatown. This summer, she was selected to participate in a competitive internship with the organization LEAP, or Leadership Education for Asian Pacifics, and in the future, she hopes to pursue graduate school, and I can't wait to hear all about the great things she's going to be doing in the future. Please join me in welcoming and congratulating Julie Mack, and I know she has a few words.
Okay, hi, my name is Julie. I just wanted to say thank you to all the assistant faculty and the professors and staff. I'm so thankful and so happy to be here and accept this award, and I'm thankful for all the professors who've been with me and who have helped me not only academically, but through a lot of personal phases and all these times crying in office hours, so I'm really thankful for each and every one of them. And I wanted to also say thank you to the Brothers of Alpha Psi Rho because of their continuing support for me. And lastly, my mom is here today, and she doesn't speak English, so I just wanted to say something really quick in Cantonese. Hi, Mommy. Well, hi, Mommy. 好開心今日個校俾我呢個獎，多謝晒你養我咁大，你冇成擔心我。And 今晚咧，你 call 晒啲朋友學俾佢聽，你係好叻㗎。Just to translate, I said you better call all your friends and tell them that you're your daughter's Lucy.
Okay, next on deck, Our department chair, Professor Gina Masakesme, will present our Donna Kawamoto Special Achievement Award.
Before we begin, I want to make a housekeeping thing, announcement. We have more water. All of us are thirsty right now. Okay, so this Donna Kawamoto Special Achievement Award is an award that's given to students who have demonstrated resiliency and a strong ability to overcome unusual hardships and life circumstances while pursuing higher education. And this year, through a generous donation from Professor Glenn Omatsu, we were able to provide a scholarship along with the recognition. This year, we have two very deserving recipients. When I call your name, please come to the stage and you can address the audience. Okay? Gregory Pancho. He wanted to do double major, but the cap enrollment didn't allow him to do that, but he's here. After being the primary caregiver for his mother during her battle with cancer, Greg came to AAS with an interest in examining the impact of cancer on API communities. In particular, the ways that cancer support networks need more culturally relevant resources to assist their family members affected by cancer. Based on his interest, he hoped to organize and present with his peers at the Association of Asian American Studies Conference in San Francisco. And I got to really see how he really shined, the whole section shined it. So he really showed there at the conference. Greg has worked while attending school and currently serves as a peer mentor and tutor for the Asian American Studies Department. Next year, he will be attending San Francisco State University for the master's program in Asian American Studies. Congratulations. Okay, so the next awardee is Jarita White. Jarita White is a double major in microbiology and Asian American Studies. She is the first person in her family to go to college straight from high school. Ever since she was 15 years old, Jarita has always worked while pursuing school. We know Jarita as a science person, but her mixed heritage background led her to explore Asian American Studies, as well as the other ethnic studies program at CSUN. Jarita has served as a role model to many of the students in AAS and currently is a peer mentor for the department. Her ultimate goal in life is to become a doctor and use medicine to achieve social change back home in Northern California and also globally. So please give me
First, I want to say thank you to everybody who's here and all the people that I know wanted to be here but couldn't. There have been so many who have impacted my life, both directly and indirectly, in such a transformative way. I want to acknowledge my friends, my family, and the Asian American Studies Department here at CSUN, all of who I feel adopted me during a time when I felt very much like an orphan of life. Thank you all for your constant presence and support. Now, when I got word that I would be receiving an award that is acknowledging my ability to overcome the special circumstances and hardships in my life, there was admittedly an initial sense of hesitation on my part. Reason being, I don't feel as if I have overcome any special circumstance. My mother is my special circumstance. She is my motivation. She is the reason why I feel I have purpose. She is the reason why I'm here. Everything I'll ever accomplish or achieve in my life will be so because of her. So with that being said, I want to accept this award on her behalf, because even after her death, she continues to inspire and move my life forward. Thank you all very much.
First, I want to thank God, my family, my professors, and I would also first like to thank Donna Konomoto for even having this scholarship on behalf of her. Thank you to the distinguished speaker, Professor Amatsu. Where are you? There you are. And Glenn Himatsu, who taught me pedagogy. I mean, I can introduce to it, but you're the one who really taught me it, and thank you.